Oh my god, it feels like forever since I've been in front of the camera. Anyway, hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Dimmyv here. Today's video is going to be about how to fly your drone in London. Now, do you know what? Before I jump into it, let me make a cup of coffee. Alright, where were we? Okay, so today's video is going to be about how to fly your drone in London, and I got 8 or 9 steps and then my final thoughts on the whole process. So I'm just going to jump straight into it. Right, step 1 is to get your CAA flyer ID. Get that out the way, get that sorted. That's going to be the first thing you need anyway. You pay £9 for your operator ID and it's so basic. I've already created a video how to do it and you can check that out up here. You can check many other YouTube creators' videos. They've covered it in depth as well. But it's very straightforward. But if you're gonna fly in London or anywhere in England, get your CAA flyer ID. And if you have a bigger drone, the DJI Mini 2, get the A2 C of C as well. Right, step 2 is you're planning your research. I can't stress this point enough. This step is very important for some of the later steps. Plan where you're going to be flying. Is it going to be a recreational flight? Is it a commercial flight? So you know for the later steps what you can be doing. So this is so important, this step. I actually have my own document template which I use to start planning all my flights. So it will tell me my ground hazards, my air hazards, any obstacles, do I need any permits, etc. When I was flying in London, I did use this because I needed to send some form of document to the Metropolitan Police. So which leads on to step 3, which is permissions if you're going to be flying in central London. Now generally, if you're flying in London with a drone that's under 250 grams, you can fly near people and in cities. That is what it says from the CAA's website, but you can fly in London no problem. However, there are certain zones in London, such as R157, R158 and R159. These are restricted zones, and before you even fly in them, you need to fill out a non-standard flight application form from that. This is why I say planning is important, because you're going to have to tell them the purpose of your flight, how high you're flying, how far you're flying, just the basics, so they know your intentions, and you submit that report. The person who I spoke to via email was very helpful with me, because sometimes when you are planning, you don't know the weather at that time. So they said you can provide a 2-week window for a possible flight, because obviously the weather in London isn't as consistent. But providing a 2-week weather window is okay with your flight details. Once you've submitted that non-standard flight application, you either get rejected or provisional approval. What happens then is they'll tell you whether you need any more permissions or documentations. The last thing you would normally do is an hour before your flight is you call up the Met Police and then you tell them basically the details that was on that form. And then they just tell you yes or no, good to fly. Most councils in London require some kind of permit, which is very frustrating as a recreational flyer because it doesn't warrant the flight. There are ways around this. However, this is why I say do your research and check. It's always better to ask. If there is no clear information, then look for signs near your local park or area where you're going to be flying, whether it prohibits drone flying or model aircraft flying. It could fall under model aircraft flying. Alright, part 4, once you've completed the earlier steps, you can now begin to check the weather, because the weather here in London can be very inconsistent. So don't just use one app, use several apps. So I use either Apple's integrated weather app, I use UAV Forecast, Google Weather, BBC Weather. Just check them all, because it's better to check multiple sources. Check the wind, the gusts of wind and how strong they are, because it can vary from location to location. But yeah, that is the next step that you need to do. Now this step 5 is optional for recreational flyers, but I do recommend it, and that is drone insurance. So if this is a paid gig, you're gonna have to have insurance anyway. As a recreational flyer, this is optional, but I recommend it because it's just peace of mind and it looks better. There's 2 options that I recommend. The Drone Cover Club is who I took my insurance out with, and that was for 30 days. I didn't cover my drone, there wasn't really need to because it doesn't merit the extra cost. The other one is if you join the British Model Flying Association, is that it comes with insurance if you become a member. But that also means you can fly under Article 16 authorization. But again, there's different caveats with both options. For instance, commercial doesn't fly under the BMFA. So just do your research and weigh what's going to be best for you. Now, step 6 is the fun part, because it's the part you've all been waiting for, and that's actually flying your drone in London. Now, all I can say here is just make sure your batteries are charged, your bag's prepped, you've done another check for the weather, you've called Met Police if you are flying in a restricted zone an hour before your flight, and just enjoy your flight. So here are some clips from my flights that I've completed in London. Part 7 is dealing with law enforcement. What should you do? Firstly, if you are flying, the first thing you should say to them is you should be able to land the drone first before carrying on with communications, because you're in charge of that drone. You don't want it to be up in the air not paying attention. Then speak to the officer, inform them in a polite manner and say to them, these are the rules, I have my fly ID, I have my insurance, done your homework from all the steps that I've been telling you so far. So yeah, if you're gonna come across a police officer and they're just curious, they might know, they might not know, and then they can tell other officers in the area, or if someone does make a disturbance call to the police, they can say to them, no, that's a legal flight, that's perfectly okay. Before you're flying, you see an officer, I would probably go up to them and say, look, officer, I'm going to be flying my drone, here's my paperwork, and that way they have a heads up. So part 8 of this video is people's reactions to drones. I didn't experience any negativity whatsoever when I was flying my drone. If anything, I had the opposite, very similar to in Canada, where people are excited by them and you have good conversations with people. If you just explain to them what you're doing, everything will be fine. So yeah, I didn't have any bad reactions, but if you do, explain to them that what you're doing is legal, you know the rules, have insurance, show them your paperwork, etc. And if they're still adamant that you're in the wrong when you're not, it's probably best just to pack up your drone and leave and go somewhere else. Just be prepared for any confrontation from people who don't like drones, or be prepared for people who do enjoy them and have a conversation with them, because you don't know what can come about it. Could be a good networking opportunity. All right, we're almost at the end of this video. And this is a question that I had for a long time before flying here in London. The question I had was, where can you fly? Because this is a tough one. A lot of councils require some form of filming payment, which is ridiculous if you ask me, or some permits. Some councils don't allow drones whatsoever, some do. The laws and rules are always changing for drones, which is why you always have to do your research. Because even though you're allowed to fly, where you can take off from, which is the issue. Now, I think local parks is the best place. Again, when you go to each park, just check the signage where if it says no model aircraft or drone flight is prohibited. That means you can't fly there, don't take off from there. Generally, local parks don't have a no-fly drone sign. There isn't anything in black and white. You can do your research on the internet to check if it says that. It's not very clear at all, if you ask me, but local parks are probably your best bet. Always go somewhere where it's quieter. Pick the times of day that are quieter. So again, sunrise, sunset, those are generally going to be the quieter times. It depends again with summer, winter. In winter, usually sunsets around 4, which is when school's finished maybe, when work's finishing, compared to in the summer where it's like 10 o'clock in the evening, completely different. Networking is important here. So if you know people that own land or own building and they give you permission to fly, that's not a problem. It's actually going to be easier for you and in your favor. Hyde Park, for instance, they want, and any of the royal parks, £1,000 permit plus VAT plus other fees, which doesn't warrant recreational flying whatsoever. Now here is my final thoughts on flying a drone in London, and this goes for both drone pilots and landowners. So the first one being is landowners need to embrace drone pilots more for content creation. So if you own a building or manage a building, connect with these drone pilots for content creation and maybe swap permissions to fly there and then to come to some sort of agreement where that drone pilot can fly to take photos and videos of that area, and if they capture footage of your building, to be able to swap that. When I was doing my research, nearly everywhere I was looking, can't fly a drone, can't fly a drone, can't fly a drone. It's insane. How's anyone supposed to be able to hone their skill as a drone pilot if there's nowhere to take off and land from, and you're restricting all the good places to fly? I can understand why, but you need to make it a lot easier for people instead of having a 2-week wait to submit a form. That's stupid. Like, the weather's gonna change by then. This is Drone Assist by Altitude Angel, and this is a fantastic app. I use this all the time. So when I was going to do my drone flight, you submit your flight plan through that because it's combined with other drone pilots and landowners. So at least they know that you'll be flying in that area on this day, for how long, whether it's recreational, commercial, and it was all in one app. And it's free. There was actually no cost to it. I highly recommend this app, and you even get live updates of aircraft, depending again on the area. Authorities, regulators, and councils can embrace the app and just come together and not be so restrictive, especially to recreational drone pilots, because at the end of the day, this is a growing industry and we will be needing drone pilots, and we're not going to be better drone pilots if we're always grounded. We want to be able to fly, and it's better to fly around obstacles to hone that skill in, because to get the practice. Alright, that is the end of this video of how to fly your drone in London. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Dimitrios. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a like. It helps with the YouTube algorithm and it boosts this video to other users trying to find this video for information how to fly in London. Use the comment section down below for if you have any questions on how to fly here or whatever it may be. Use other drone community members. We're all here to stick together. And don't forget to subscribe for future content. I'm actually heading back to Toronto on Saturday. This might be out that day, but on that day I'll be filming my travel vlog, so hopefully that will come out after this. And I'll be doing like my first year review on YouTube and what to expect in the coming year. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.